The night was quiet in the capital city, where power and politics usually reigned. But inside a sealed emergency command center, cold light from monitors flickered across the serious faces of humanity's most powerful individuals. Victor Hall, an experienced diplomat with silver streaks in his hair, adjusted his tie. Beside him stood General Chris Gale, an imposing figure with a laugh that could shake walls. "Victor, you look like you just sat through another 7-hour meeting." "Chris, if this meeting is short, it's probably because something has already gone terribly wrong." As if the universe had decided to prove his point, alarms blared. The monitors flashed chaotic images, explosions in Toronto, Beijing, Johannesburg. Then, on the main screen, an alien figure appeared, translucent blue skin, glowing yellow eyes. Its voice was calm, almost calculated. "Humans, your defiance has become an annoyance. Tonight, we have reminded you of your place." Victor stared at the screen as the transmission ended. A list of confirmed casualties appeared, names he recognized. Allies. Friends. The president was among them. Elliot Shaw, a sharp-tongued intelligence officer, stormed into the room, tablet in hand. "Victor, you're gonna love this. They're bragging about it over encrypted channels. Real professionals. One of them even joked that Earth is just a training ground for the Galactic Empire." Victor clenched his jaw. Training ground. They thought this was some kind of game. "Well," Elliot added, shrugging, "if it is, we're losing. Badly." A young adjutant burst in, out of breath. "Sir, there was also an attack on your life. Your home in Boston." Victor held up a hand. "I'm standing here, aren't I? Focus on the living." But the truth gnawed at him. The thought of his family home, the memories it carried, now reduced to rubble. It was a wound he had no time to tend to. Survival demanded focus. Chris stepped closer, his usual bravado replaced by grim determination. "You know what this means, right? We can't just sit here, waiting for them to pick us off one by one." Victor nodded. "We need to strike back. Not with rage. With precision." Silence fell over the room. Then Elliot spoke. "Listen, I know this isn't the time for optimism, but if they really underestimated us this much, we have an advantage. They think we're weak. That's their mistake." Chris placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "He's not wrong. The arrogance of these bastards is our chance. They think our strength lies in our leaders. They forgot it's in our stubborn refusal to die." The monitors flickered again, displaying an intercepted transmission, revealing the location of an alien command post. Chris narrowed his eyes. "You're not seriously thinking about going after them, are you?" Victor straightened his tie, his expression resolute. "Chris, they came into our home and butchered our people. If we don't show them the cost of underestimating humanity, they'll keep coming." "Of course, you're going," Elliot muttered. "You ever consider just taking a vacation?" But as the team prepared for the dangerous mission ahead, Victor took a moment to stare out at the dark skyline of the city. Smoke rose in the distance. Lives lost. Trust shattered. The impossible task before them. "Victor," Chris called. "You coming, or are you just going to stand there thinking all night?" Victor turned, a faint grin crossing his lips. "Just making sure the Empire knows what's coming for them." They boarded the unmarked ship. The engines roared to life. As they lifted off, a message formed in Victor's mind. Not a plea, not a negotiation, a warning to the entire galaxy. The unmarked ship cut through the night sky, silent as a predator in the dark. Inside, the team worked in practiced efficiency, checking weapons, running last-minute system diagnostics, and mentally preparing for what lay ahead. Victor Hall sat at the front, eyes fixed on the holographic display hovering above the console. Their target was a heavily fortified alien command post deep within enemy-occupied space. This wouldn't be a simple strike. It had to be surgical, decisive. Elliot Shaw, seated nearby, leaned back with his usual smirk, though his fingers drummed against his tablet, a nervous habit. "So, just to confirm, the plan is to sneak into an alien fortress, disrupt their entire operation, and get out before they realize what happened? No offense, Victor, but that sounds like the plot of one of those action holovids that always ends with a massive explosion." Chris Gale, securing his sidearm, grunted. "There might be explosions. Just, controlled ones." Victor exhaled slowly, looking at the team. "We're not here to start a war we can't win. We're here to send a message. Humanity doesn't roll over and die." The ship's pilot, a young but sharp-witted officer named Lyra Vale, chimed in from the cockpit. We're coming up on the target. I've got us masked from their long-range scanners, but as soon as we breach the perimeter, they'll know we're here. Victor stood. Then we don't give them time to react. Elliot, you're on the infiltration systems. Disable their internal communications. Chris, take point with the strike team. We move fast, quiet, and we leave no trace. As the ship neared the enemy stronghold, the tension in the air thickened. The alien facility loomed below, sleek metallic structures arranged in a near-perfect geometric pattern, pulsating with the eerie blue glow of energy conduits. This was no ordinary outpost. It was a strategic hub, possibly a nerve center for future attacks. Chris checked his gear one last time. You ever wonder why we always end up in these situations? Elliot smirked. Because Victor has a hero complex. And because we're too good at what we do. Victor didn't argue. He simply placed a hand on the ramp control. Everyone ready? The team exchanged glances, then nodded. Then let's show them what humanity is capable of. The ramp lowered. And they moved. The night air was cool as the team descended from the ship, their boots barely making a sound against the metal surface of the enemy installation's outer hull. They moved like shadows, their black tactical suits blending seamlessly into the darkness. Overhead, the stars twinkled, oblivious to the war brewing beneath them. Elliot tapped his wrist-mounted device, his expression tightening as a stream of data scrolled across the tiny screen. All right. Their perimeter defenses are running automated scans every 15 seconds. If we time it right, we can slip through the blind spots. Victor gave a nod. Then let's not waste time. Lyra, keep the ship running. The moment things go south, I want you ready for a fast extraction. Lyra's voice crackled through their earpieces. You got it, boss. Just don't take too long. I don't like our odds if they scramble reinforcements. Chris grunted as he pressed his back against a cold steel support beam, peering around the corner. We've got 2 guards near the access panel. Alien infantry. Standard issue plasma rifles. Victor exhaled sharply. We take them out silently. Elliot flashed a cocky grin. Finally, something fun. Before Victor could give the order, Elliot and another operative moved in like wraiths, their blades flashing in the dim light. The alien guards barely had time to react before they crumpled to the ground, unconscious. Elliot wiped his blade on one of their uniforms and gave a satisfied nod. All clear. Chris shook his head. You enjoy this way too much. Elliot smirked. I enjoy doing my job well. Victor knelt beside the access panel, motioning for Elliot to get to work. The tech specialist plugged in a small hacking device, his fingers dancing across its surface. Give me 10 seconds and a soft beep. The door hissed open. We're in. The team slipped inside, swallowed by the metallic corridors of the alien facility. The air was cool and sterile, humming with the energy of unseen machines. Victor led them forward, his mind razor-sharp, focused on the objective. They had come to make a statement, and soon, the galaxy would hear it. Moving deeper into the alien facility, Victor and his team kept their steps light, their breathing controlled. The corridors were eerily silent, the walls pulsing faintly with the same unnatural blue energy that powered the complex. Elliot was already working on his wrist console, his eyes flicking between the dimly lit hallways and the streams of alien code flashing on his screen. Security sweeps are light, he whispered. Either they're overconfident, or we're walking into something nasty. Chris snorted. When is it ever easy? Victor held up a fist, signaling a stop. Ahead, an intersection. Multiple paths. And one of them led straight to their target, the main communications hub. If they took it out, the enemy would be blind, at least for long enough to strike at their command post. Lyra's voice crackled through their comms. Heads up, I'm picking up movement in your sector. 3 hostiles coming your way. Victor glanced at Elliot, who quickly ducked behind a panel, fingers flying over his wrist console. The lights overhead flickered. The energy humming through the walls dimmed slightly. Then, the security doors ahead hissed open. Elliot grinned. I just gave us a new entrance. Victor gave a single nod. Move. They slipped through the doorway, just as heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor behind them. The alien guards turned the corner a second too late. Inside, the comms room was massive. Holographic displays hovered in midair, broadcasting data streams in a language Victor barely recognized. A central console pulsed like the heart of the facility. Chris wasted no time. How fast can we take this down? Elliot was already at the main console, plugging in his device. Fast enough if you stop asking questions. His fingers danced over the interface, disrupting their comms now. An alarm blared. Elliot froze. That wasn't me. Victor spun, his pulse spiking. The security feeds flickered, and on one of the displays, he saw them, reinforcements. Dozens of them, closing in fast. Chris clenched his fists. So much for quiet. Lyra's voice was urgent in their earpieces. Guys, I hope you've got a plan B, because that alarm just woke up the entire base. Victor exhaled, his mind racing. They still had a chance. But only if they moved now. He turned to his team. We hold this room long enough to finish the job. Then we fight our way out. Elliot looked up, grinning despite the tension. Now that sounds like a Victor Hall plan. The door behind them shook as something heavy slammed against it. They had seconds. Victor raised his weapon. Positions. The fight was about to begin. The door shuddered again, this time with more force. Victor could hear the hissing of plasma weapons charging on the other side. Whatever was coming for them wasn't just a regular patrol, it was heavily armed. Elliot's fingers were a blur on the console. Almost got it. Just a few more seconds. Chris took position behind an overturned terminal, weapon aimed at the entrance. You always need a few more seconds. Victor knelt beside him, scanning the room for cover points. Lyra, status? Her voice crackled in their earpieces. Your ride is still clear, but that won't last long. You need to move. Not an option yet, Victor said, gripping his weapon tighter. Elliot, I don't care if you have to punch that thing, get it done. Punching it won't help. The doors exploded inward. A shockwave of energy knocked Victor and Chris backward. Sparks rained from the ceiling as a towering alien brute stepped through the smoke, its armor gleaming under the dim emergency lighting. Behind it, more soldiers poured in, weapons raised. Chris was the first to react. He fired, his plasma rounds slamming into the brute's chest. The impact sent a ripple through the creature's shields, but didn't bring it down. Oh, that's just fantastic, Elliot muttered, still frantically working at the console. Victor rolled behind cover, firing off controlled bursts. The room lit up with streaks of blue and red energy, the air thick with the smell of burning metal. Elliot, now would be a great time. Elliot gritted his teeth. Almost there. Suddenly, the central console flickered. The alien holograms distorted, then shut down completely. The alarm stuttered and died. Elliot let out a breath. Comms are fried. They're blind. Victor didn't have time to celebrate. The brute was still standing, its massive form barreling toward them. Chris reloaded. Victor, please tell me you've got an idea. Victor's eyes flicked to a large energy conduit near the ceiling. A weak spot. Yeah, he said, adjusting his aim. Bring that thing toward me. Chris didn't hesitate. He popped out of cover and fired 2 quick shots at the brute's head. It roared, turning toward him, just as Victor fired directly at the conduit. A pulse of energy erupted from above. The brute had just enough time to look up before an electrical surge cascaded down, frying its shields and sending it crashing to the ground with a final, guttural growl. Elliot let out a low whistle. Remind me never to play chess with you. Victor stood, dusting himself off. We're not out of this yet. Move. They sprinted out of the ruined comms room, weaving through the corridors as the facility descended into chaos. The enemy was blind, but that wouldn't last forever. Lyra's voice cut in urgently. You've got more incoming from the west. If you're getting out, now's the time. Victor pushed forward, leading the team toward the extraction point. Every step was a battle against time. The mission wasn't over yet, and neither was the war. The team sprinted through the dimly lit corridors, their footsteps echoing as distant alarms blared. The facility was in disarray. Without comms, enemy forces were scrambling, uncoordinated, desperate to stop an attack they could no longer track. Lyra's voice came through their earpieces, tense but steady. You've got 30 seconds before I take off with or without you. I've got hostiles circling in fast. Victor didn't break stride. We're coming. Hold position. Chris fired a few parting shots down a side corridor to deter pursuit. How many more of these guys are there? Elliot glanced at his wrist console as he ran. Enough that I'd rather not find out. They burst onto the landing platform just as Lyra hovered the ship in close. Side hatch open. The ship's cannons fired precision bursts, keeping enemy forces pinned down. Move, move, move. Lyra shouted. Victor was the first up the ramp, hauling Elliot in behind him as Chris turned and laid down covering fire. Plasma bolts sizzled past him, one barely missing his shoulder. "Chris now," Victor barked. Chris took a running leap, grabbing Victor's outstretched hand just as Lyra jerked the ship into motion. The ramp sealed shut behind them, the sudden force knocking them all to the floor. Victor pulled himself up and looked through the viewport. Below, the alien facility shrank into the distance as flames and sparks erupted across its structure. They had crippled a critical command post. The Galactic Empire wouldn't recover from this blow so easily. Elliot slumped into his seat, breathing heavily. "So I'd say that went well." Chris glared at him. "We almost died." Elliot smirked. "Yeah, almost." Victor let out a breath, running a hand through his hair. "It's not over. They'll retaliate." Lyra turned from the cockpit. "Then what's the next move, boss?" Victor stared out into the vastness of space, the distant glow of Earth barely visible on the horizon. They had struck a blow, but the war for humanity's survival had only just begun. He turned back to his team, resolve in his voice. "We take the fight to them." As the ship disappeared into the stars, one thing was clear: humanity would not kneel. Not today. Not ever.